I enjoy making goals in all parts of my life. So join me today as I share my reading goals for the upcoming year. I do think it's important that if we are setting goals, we should make sure that they are SMART goals. And SMART goals are goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Go back and lay down. So over the past few years, I have read anywhere between 60 books to 200 books. But something that I've noticed is in the years that I was reading, the year I read 200 books, for instance, many of those were middle grades. My kids were at the age where I was still trying to stay ahead of them on what books they were reading and being able to give them suggestions. And I still do that. And I do still read a lot of middle grade. We enjoy reading books together as a family. But I'm reading more adult books and I'm back into reading more classics. And I do think that there's a length of time necessary for reading classics that for a lot of middle grades isn't necessary, whether it's by length or by content. And so something that I've realized, and I did this a little bit last year, but I'm very much there this year, which is I don't want to set a number goal for myself. I want to do my best that if I choose books that are on my TBR, I do my best to try to read those and yet also still give myself room to mood read and to discover something new or to come across a used book or someone mentions it in a review and I think, wow, that's something that I would like to read, and then I'm able to spontaneously incorporate that. The other thing is I would like to read thicker books this year. I have 2 pretty thick books that I've started at the end of 2024 that I am wanting to just slowly make my way through. And I know for a lot of people, having a number goal wouldn't necessarily cause you to not read big books. But for me, someone who's very driven by checking things off and having a list and getting through that, having a specific number goal sometimes can, even subconsciously, inhibit me from maybe picking up a bigger book. So my first goal for 2025 is to not have a number goal. Something else that I want to focus on is reading my bookshelves. So I know that there are a couple people who have read your bookshelves or read your shelf challenges, and I will link those below. I love that idea. I know that Jen of Jen's Reading Life has suggested that she wants to read 2/3 of the books that are on her TBR and really focus on that. And I love that idea. You guys, I counted the books that I have physically on my TBR, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's like we're getting close to 100. And I think that's partially because I do go to little free libraries and used bookstores. And so there's not a huge financial commitment in collecting those types of books. But I also have book subscriptions. I have Owl Crate and Fairy Loot and Illumicrate and the Literary Book Club and also Book of the Month now. And they all have options, all of those that I've mentioned, to skip. And so it's not like I'm getting books from them every month. And honestly, if it ends up being that I'm skipping those more than I'm actually getting the books, or I'm reselling more of the books than wanting to read them, then I will cancel those easily. But there are a lot of books that I have that are backlist as well as coming out in 2025 that I want to read. I do want to focus on those backlist books that I have collected and be ruthless about, is this something that I want to read? And if not, I don't need to have it be taking up space in our home, and I can easily go and unhaul it at a little free library or at a Goodwill or our local thrift store. In that same vein of decreasing my own personal pressure on what I'm reading and what I'm accomplishing, I, again, while attempting this in 2024, was maybe somewhat successful, but not as successful as I would like to be. And that is, I want to be someone who ruthlessly DNFs. books. I say that realizing that sometimes it takes a while to get into a book. I'm the kind of person where if I am, let's say maybe halfway through, there's a pressure of like, I could finish this and count it towards a number. But I really want to be at a place where rather than finishing it and feeling like that's how I honor my time, the way that I really honor my time is by saying, I'm not enjoying this. This is not the book for me. And there's somebody else in the world that would appreciate this book better. And let me see if I can pass it on to them. So, all of that to say, as I'm DNFing books, there are certain qualities that I am looking for in a book that I am not finishing. I think not being engaged, not really enjoying the writing style, or maybe the content. I think, again, as I get older, there are books that when I was younger, I would read and really didn't think through the content, and maybe it didn't bother me, but at this stage in my life, I do think about the books that I'm reading and the examples that I'm setting for people around me, and I really want to be intentional about my choices. And if I start a book and feel like this is not a book that is enriching my life, I may consider DNFing it. Now, I realize there are books that you read as escapist and just kind of a simple story and something cute, but again, I want to be more intentional about the choices that I make for books that I really commit to finishing. In addition to wanting to read more of the books that are already on my physical TBR, I also want to use my Kindle more. So we are planning some trips in our RV, which means I'm not going to be able to be carrying a lot of books in the RV and taking up that kind of space. And so I'm hoping to get a lot of options on my Kindle and to use that as well. I also want to do a better job of finishing the series that I have started and that I enjoy and that I want to continue in. So I am planning on doing a whole separate video. I need to get myself organized on what series do I actually have running. I'd like to have a better list in my reading journal of what series I have going and which ones I do want to say I'm DNFing and which ones I want to say, you know what, this is a commitment that I want to make. I really want to dive into this and be committed to finishing the series. And so that is a goal that I have where I would kind of, again, in a measurable, time-bound format, be consistent with choosing for my TBRs books that are in a series that allow me to continue to moving through that in a manner that is methodical and helps me to at least achieve the goal of finishing some of the series that I currently have been involved in and reading in an ongoing fashion. Another goal is that I want to diversify the authors that I read. And by that I mean choosing books that are translated, books that are written by people of color, just being creative in the choices that I make. And I do think that's one of the reasons why I love Little Free Libraries is because you are exposed to a variety of books and they're not always in the genres that you typically gravitate towards. And so I think just being open to trying some books that maybe I wouldn't normally try is something that I want to be focused on in 2025. The next goal that I want to work more on is improving my role as a reviewer. I think what I mean by that is taking notes a little bit more as I'm reading, having some lists going where I kind of have some books categorized of ones that I like that fit into a certain category. You know, I have that literary apothecary series that I'm doing where I really kind of put books in a theme or a genre and share the options in that video of, hey, if you like, for instance, someone requested historical fiction, and so that's one that I want to get to in 2025. As I'm reading books and I think, oh, this is a book that could fit in that, just jotting down some notes about that book so that when I'm reviewing it and talking about it much later, maybe not in a monthly wrap-up, but, months later, that I can recall the details, I can recall the feelings, I can recall the reasons why I really loved that book. Secondly, I want to do a better job of being consistent in my reviews, in shorts and reels and in Instagram posts and in I have a website where I put up, if I have a review on Instagram, there's usually a more in-depth review on my website, and I want to be more measurable in that. And so having some sort of tracking device that allows me to say, okay, of the 5 books that I read in a month, this is one that I really think people would enjoy, and I want to review that and have some sort of checklist where I can say, yes, okay, I got the photo for it, I got some words for it, and I'm going to post it in these places. And just really, again, be more intentional and methodical about the reading process and then my sharing of my experiences with specific books. Something else that I want to focus on, and it's a little bit related to improving my role as a reviewer because there is some creativity in that and how I choose to share about a book. I would like to get into annotating. I really have not annotated much. I read some nonfiction books with a friend of mine. It's a book club, but it's just the two of us. We've been doing it for, I don't know, maybe a decade. It's been years and years and years. And so we usually get copies that we can underline and write in the margin. But to me, and I've also tabbed books, I'll find like a little theme and tab, religious quotes and moral challenges and, things that I don't necessarily like, and I've tabbed them in a color-coded manner. But as far as really annotating, where I'm putting my heart and soul into it, I would also like to doodle in some books. I'd like to be able to have copies of books that are not worth so much money that I can just doodle in, used copies or whatever, where I can draw my thoughts and draw what's being described and just kind of have fun with it and make it creative, maybe even color over words. While I respect books, maybe not have such a reverential viewpoint in all of them, but make it be this creative outlet just to, again, connect myself with that reading experience and to have a book that when I look back on it, I think, wow, I spent so much time and energy and really slowed down and got into the depth of that and have this beautiful book as a souvenir from that experience. I would love to hear what reading goals you have. Who knows, maybe I'll be inspired to alter mine a little bit or add some in depending on what it is that you have to suggest. So please feel free to leave all of that down in the comments below. I love hearing your thoughts and hearing what you're doing in your reading life. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.